Okay, so today's Take 10 talk is presented by Kenneth Parker. Ken serves as the 45th United States Attorney for the Southern District of Ohio. As the United States Attorney, Parker is the Chief Federal Law Enforcement Officer for the Southern District of Ohio. He serves more than 5 million residents in 48 of the 88 counties in Ohio. Parker oversees the investigation and litigation of all criminal and civil cases brought on behalf of the United States in the Southern District of Ohio, and also as well as those matters that may need to be defended on behalf of the nation. Parker supervises an office of approximately 65 assistant United States attorneys and 60 support staff personnel in 3 offices located in Cincinnati, Columbus, and Dayton. Throughout his career, Ken has always believed in maintaining a strong connection to the community. Prior to its phasing out, he assisted in the Department of Justice's Weed and Seed program, which was a residentially driven initiative to focus on and address community issues such as substance abuse, drug trafficking, and repeat violent offenders, while simultaneously revitalizing the area through prevention and intervention strategies. In addition, he's dedicated a substantial amount of his free time to speak to and mentor youth in the community, encouraging them to stay away from drugs and other issues that cause problems. He firmly believes that crime prevention is an essential part of enforcement, and an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure when it comes to serving as a federal prosecutor. Ken has been active in the legal community. He served as president of the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky chapter of the Federal Bar Association, and also the president of the Black Lawyers Association of Cincinnati. He's a proud alumnus of the Summer Work Experience in Law program, also known as SWELL. He also served as the chair of that board, and through his leadership, the SWELL program was expanded from Cincinnati to the cities of Hamilton, Dayton, Columbus, and Louisville, Kentucky, and lives in Cincinnati with his wife and twin daughters. We're thrilled to have him here to present his talk, Understanding History to Propel Your Career. Thanks, Ken.
So I'll say, good morning, everyone. Good day. 12 o'clock. Again, my topic, as you heard, is Understanding History to Propel Your Career. Why is that important to me as a topic? I believe that most people fail to understand their routes. So most people look at things in the sense of, and if you don't mind, I'm a travel attorney, so I will sort of this exactly right here to stay on camera, all right? And then I think I got my bearings placed exactly right here to stay on camera, all right? So if I'm off camera at all, please tell me. But people will think it's just the path they get focused to. Hey, I'm either going straight, I'm going left to right, or I can go back in the sense of their path, they draw it out. But one thing they miss out on is there's a path they should always look at and try to understand. That is the path, that is history, things that come before them. I was blessed to have what I call individuals in my life who were compasses. I tell everyone they should get a compass, a historical compass. First, there was Judge Bill McLean. He lived till he was 101 years old, passed in 2014. He was a member of the Cincinnati Bar Association, a very historical figure here in Cincinnati. And I used to go visit with Judge McLean, and it felt like, for the Star Wars folks here, it was like going to see Yoda. Who would explain things. He had a soft, and Bernice, I see Bernice Walker is on the screen. She was another person who was a mentee of Judge McLean. When you went to see him, he would explain, first you had to brief him on what was going on in your work. So you give a report, as he would say. And then afterwards, as he was thinking through various parts, if you needed any advice, he could tell you things that occurred in history, but he could tell you what you need to do to avoid particular things or to go forward. I often found it very, at first, you look at, I'm not a horoscope person, so just understand, and I don't visit any tarot card readings or anything like that. But he helped me understand, yeah, there is a very significant point to understanding history to navigate your career. I will say this, Judge McClain told me the downfall of two very significant attorneys here in Cincinnati and how they would ultimately come to, as far as their demise would occur. And he told me it was based on some historical things that had happened. He had seen not happen with him, but it happened with other attorneys. And I found that to be just incredible for someone to say this 5 years before it happens. Another person who was very significant to me was Judge S. Arthur Speaker. I clerked for Judge Speaker, United States District Court. He lived into his 90s, and he would not, being a clerk is great, but to also be able to engage the judge with personal things and things that, as far as their life experiences, that was even more wonderful. And he would explain things to me as far as historical things and how I should use those things to navigate my career. Another person who was not an attorney, who taught me a lot as far as using history. My grandfather, Von Parker, he was a sharecropper, he was a farmer. He taught me how to think critically using things in the past to how you need to do things in the future. You learn a lot from farmers. Farmers not just you get on a tractor, you just drive around, make some holes in the ground, throw some seeds down. No, you need to understand the dirt. You need to understand what was in that dirt, how that dirt how it was working 5 years before then. Were there any trees? Did you uproot any trees? Do you have cattle going over there? What have you placed over there? What's going on as far as nature? Things like that. Even things that may have happened 50 years prior to that affected that land. So my grandfather was really pressed to understand things that happened before you. You can use that to understand and navigate and propel yourself going forward. So I really appreciate all three of those gentlemen. I'm going to, those who they're gonna miss some of the question and answer part, but I'll refer to things in the question and answer part. But there's a benefit to being here. I can speak even more candid there. I want to you to think about certain things, okay? So you think about your journey. Sure, you all feel you have a roadmap. What are you going to use as far as that journey? The big scheme of things, your planning and so forth. And again, if you're going to plan, you need to use history. I'll read you a quote by a gentleman named Henry Glass. He's alive. He's actually a professor emeritus at Indiana University, Bloomington, where I went to law school. And his quote is, "History is not the past, but a map of the past, drawn from a particular point of view to be useful to the modern traveler." I'm going to come back to that quote too, because there are a number of things hidden in that quote that I want us to think about. And one thing I'm going to end with is that quote, how you look at it. But again, he says, "History is not the past, but a map of the past, drawn from a particular point to be useful to the modern traveler." Now, one of the things you need to understand as far as your career and why history is a great thing to look at. You can't change the past. That's the beauty of it. You really can't change it. You can try to write it in different ways and use nice semantics and whatnot, but you can't really change the past. So it's kind of marvelous, especially when you look at it in certain situations with law firms, with judges, with different folks. It's there. So we're lawyers, right? Right? Everybody lawyer? Right? Everybody's attorney. So I'm speaking in the legal sense. What do every day? We look at what we call precedent, case law, which is what? History. And lawyers are really individuals, as I was told a long time ago, and it broke me down to small change, but then it built me back up. Somebody said, the first lawyers were the people that they would go see and they would look at the crystal balls and say, "Oh, what's going to happen tomorrow?" They were really looking at precedent. The person had arthritis, so their bones were aching, so it was going to rain tomorrow, it's going to rain tomorrow, well, things like that. Well, lawyers look at precedent, right? Which is nothing but history. Precedent is about something that's already happened. You can't really change it, set it. So that's why you can look at things as far as history for your career like it's precedent. Okay? You can build on that. When you're looking at things, you gotta be honest about what you're seeing. Say, for instance, you want to open a restaurant. You're gonna go in the restaurant business. But at that location, there's been 5 restaurants, all at that location, and none of them survived. Not one. Did you open your restaurant? You know, you can say location. Would you open your restaurant? You're looking at precedent. You need to take that into account as far as yourself and your career. Now, you have to start with a lot of introspection. Introspection is necessary. Sometimes I see, well, not even sometimes, a lot of times I see people do not do enough introspection. And when I say that, you have to be willing to step outside of yourself and look at yourself. Every 2 years, at least every 2 years, what I do is I take a piece of paper out and I draw myself out on a piece of paper using circles. This is me. What is my universe? I draw out lines like the moon's the universe. I draw a line for family. I draw the moons off of that, or who are in my family, who are the persons. I draw a line for career. I draw, a circle, I'm sorry. I draw a circle for community service, things like that. And I start to draw my universe so I can see the paper may be huge. But then I can step back and look at that paperwork, and then I start circling, or I've done things here, I've done things there, I've done things here. And you can start to see where you don't do anything. All right, where you're just taking up, you got Pluto, you never go there. But it's in your universe, but you just never go there. So you gotta do some introspection. And in doing that introspection, you gotta actually ask yourself, as I say in my title, understanding history to prepare your career. You gotta define what career is. To you, what is career? Why did you become an attorney? You know, many people, at least when I was in law school, I wasn't the only one. Fight for justice, for the little man. Constitutional law, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go down in the most rural places of the nation and represent the littlest person to bring forth every right to which they have. Then by the 3rd year, I don't wanna get paid in bushels of corn. And so I'm going big law, you know what I mean? And so you have to be able to say, what does career mean to you? Define it. And in that, you have to say, what does advancement mean? Because you want to advance in your career. So you have to be able to ask yourself, what does advancement mean? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? Again, with the introspection, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself. And in being honest with yourself too, you have to modify that in the sense of not only where do you want to be in 10 years, who do you want to be in 10 years? Who do you want to be in 5 years? There's a quote by Dr. Johnny Coleman. It goes, act the way you want to be, and soon you'll be the way you act. Act the way you want to be, and soon you'll be the way you act. So, doing that, you're envisioning your path. Think about your goals. Think about the people, or at least one person, hopefully at least one person. And it can be mom or dad, especially if they're a lawyer, we're talking about law, that you would like to emulate. Okay? And when you think about that person you like to emulate, that's when the history starts kicking in. Do you know that person? Have you understood their biography? Do you know who they are? Why do you want to emulate this person? That's when you have to start, that's when your studying comes in of an individual and their history. People say, well, I like to be more like such and such, and I always often ask why. They don't have a why. They just thought the person was cool. Like, that's what my 13-year-old twin said. Why? Take the best out of folks, but understand what the best is. So take the best out. You know, I had no desire to practice criminal law in law school, but I knew I wanted to be a trial attorney. That's one thing I knew. I said, I want to be a trial attorney. No desire to practice criminal law. When I was approached by the U.S. attorney about coming to the office to work, I still hedged. It's like, no, I don't really see it. And she said, well, I'll have you in court within a week. At the time, to be in court, we were told the attorneys would take 7 years to carry a bag, and then one day the law firm would say, hey, why don't you get up and do a deposition, something to that extent. I don't want to be a trial attorney. I have no desire to practice criminal law. Let me sit back and study a little bit. Let me look into this office. You know, just because someone made a great offer, you know, we got to think about what is the history of the office. Now, will I go in and find myself, you know, in a bad situation? That's what they affirm. You know, study the history of it. How long do people stick around? Do they leave? I mean, why do they leave? Is she sincere in what she's saying? You know, and then also with history, Judge McClain, I remember when I first went to meet with him, and I was going to a firm as a summer associate. He says to me, he said, look, you're gonna have a good time this summer. He says, but remember, don't get caught anywhere with a drink in your hand. Never let somebody take a picture with you with a drink in your hand. And what kind of drink? You know, seriously, I was kind of like, what kind of drink? You know, am I all right? A glass of water is a drink, right? But no, he said no. He told me about a gentleman who he was sitting with a drink in his hand, and they took a picture of him, and that picture kind of stuck. Didn't matter a glass of water. Later on, there was a sort of a tacit rumor that he drank too much, and it didn't need to be his reputation. So he explained that to me, and to this day, I've never allowed somebody to take a picture of me with water in my hand or anything. I just kind of said that. And then the other thing he told me, he said, look, and no matter what, if you're at a pool party, because some associates, I don't know how it is now. I don't think it's as good as it used to be. It used to be incredible. And I don't want to date myself. You know, I'm only practicing for 2 years. But, you know, he told me, he said, no matter what, as a summer associate, when you are around and people start having fun, he said, don't, if it's a pool party or anything, don't you get up and start going anything crazy. And I didn't say why to him. I was smart enough to say, well, why not? Because he said, we're crazy, but I wanted to explore that more. And he said, look, Judge McClain had an incredible life. He had to overcome a lot of things. And he was the first African American to be brought into the Cincinnati Bar Association. Incredible. He knew Potter Stewart, he was the Supreme Court, incredible man. In all of that, he explained to me how he had to overcome bad stereotypes, things like that. And he just like, you know, unfortunately, you know, the society will be such that, you know, there may be, because of the historical connotations of it, so people may not remember who was acting up, but they'll remember you on come Monday. And so he said, just stay away from that. That's a pitfall. And so I did. I just like, I did. And he talked to me about starting a firm. And he expressed to me, he said, he showed me a number of firms that had started in Cincinnati and they were no longer in existence. And I said, well, what's going on, George? I don't understand how these firms did not stay open. And he told me about it. He said 3 things. He said, 1, you're gonna start a firm, avoid jealousy of your colleagues, so avoid that. He said, avoid money issues with your colleagues, avoid that. And he said, avoid, and I'm a man, he was a man, so he said, avoid issues regarding intimate relationships with women. He said, all the firms he had seen, they always would hit one of those type of potholes and they would implode. And so when I'm saying that to you because people approach me in my career about starting firms and so forth. And that's something I've always made sure to say to individuals and to give them advice about that. To have that deep level conversation before you start the firm. If you cannot overcome that, you're not gonna propel your career anywhere. You're gonna end up having, he's making more money than me or she's making more money than me or things like that. And there have been firms that unfortunately issues will pop up dealing with those 3 things. So he expressed to me history there. But then he would tell me the good things to always do. said always be on time. And he tell me about, Potter Stewart, people that, came to his defense. Don't be afraid to speak up. Potter Stewart became a Supreme Court justice. He's the gentleman who spoke up for Judge McClain as far as becoming a member of the Cincinnati Bar Association. That spoke to his character. So Judge McClain would tell me, speak up, make sure your character is seen. You have to do that. I wrote some notes here. I know we only have 10 minutes, right? It's hard to talk about history in 10 minutes because I want to get in Judge Spiegel too. But I wrote some notes here in the sense of things that you should know, like knowing the history of the professional spaces you occupy or you intend to occupy will help you to understand the people around you, who you work with. You need to understand, how did that firm get established? Did it go from doing one particular thing to another? Or how did that public entity get established? It helps you to understand the issues that are there or that seem to be there. Sometimes people see things that are not there. They believe they are, but they're really not. You can understand through history whether or not that firm or that place to which you work is advancing. Go back and check, is that place advancing? Are people there advancing? Again, who do you want to emulate? Have they ever been at that location? Have they ever worked there? What happened as far as their career? In our office, we have this wall that you can walk down to this hallway. On the walls on each side of the hallway, we have pictures of all the U.S. attorneys during our Christmas party that were present. And one gentleman there who represented Monica Lewinsky. He's on our wall and so forth. I studied him and Billy Martin, that's his name. And understanding him, his place in our office, how does it help me? Because when I saw Billy in DC, I was able to break the ice immediately. Hey, Billy, how's it going? I saw your picture on the wall, and I know you worked on this particular case. Billy can tell me everything I need to know. We're like BFFs, so to speak. But understand, are people advancing? Why did Billy Martin leave? You can look at the history of where you are and what you're doing in your career to determine whether or not you are advancing. People sometimes believe that you ever been somewhere and you see somebody swimming, they think they're swimming, they ain't moving at all. But they're doing some things, right? And it also helps you understand the courses of action that you need to take. Again, looking at someone you want to emulate, you can look at, what do I need to do? You also have Martindale Hubbell, I don't know if you do, right? I've only been practicing 2 years. So maybe it's been gone in the last 2 years. But Martindale Hubbell is the book that had everybody's name in it that became attorneys that got out of law school. They would have sort of like a small VTOC with their names and so forth. And you can study that like history and you can see what's important to Martindale Hubbell and what was important to them. And you can use it for yourself. You can look to see this. Martindale Hubbell was like, if it was an epitaph, this is what's going to be listed with that person. You don't want to wait till you get to the point of your obituary to know what you did, what people are going to think important. You can look back at other folks and see, these are the things, the historical things that are important, that are listed. Therefore, maybe I need to acquire those things to go forward. Okay? You have Martindale Hubbell, don't tell me you don't. You just have an electronic version. I'm sure you do. I'm a bet on that. Now I'm gonna make some money. Some electronic version. History also, as far as understanding the history of your professional spaces to which you occupy or you intend to occupy, it'll help you focus on the things you need to develop, like I said with Martindale Hubbell, to help you determine areas where you need to improve. As I said with Judge McClain, it'll help you steer clear of pitfalls. Help you steer clear of pitfalls. It'll help you determine if you succeed at a particular thing. I don't like to use failing, but it will help you determine if you're not doing so well at a particular thing. Or you may need to leave that firm. Also, again, knowing that history will help you appreciate what you have. Again, every 2 years, every so many years, you do an introspection of yourself. You get a chance to appreciate what you have and what you had. And you need to get some things back because or reestablish some relationships that would help. A lot of people believe that, oh my God, I'm up for a judgeship. Now I'll call such and such. Versus, let me appreciate who they are now, because that's what you find when you're looking at autobiographies, you're looking at people's relationships. Do you know, and I keep saying Potter Stewart, do you know he was offered the position for the Supreme Court of the United States while he was sitting having a bowl of cereal with the president? The president was just like, I want to select somebody. What do you think? That's a hell of a bowl of Wheaties, right? Are you president? Something about you. And understanding the history will also help boost your morale, your own confidence, because you know you're on the right path. You will know I'm doing the right things. I am moving. I'm not just out here treading water and so forth. Pearl Buck, and she is incredible. She was the first woman to win the Pulitzer Prize. I'll tell you that. She said, if you want to understand today, you have to search yesterday. If you want to understand today, you need to search yesterday. Like today will be history. But if you don't remember today, then tomorrow is just another isolated silo in your life. Take notes and understand things. Remember to be open to learn. That's what you have to do. You look at your career, you look at history. When you do introspection, you gotta be open and honest with yourself. So you have to be open to learn when you're opening different boxes, so to speak, to get an understanding. You gotta be flexible. And you gotta utilize your mentors and your sponsors. It's the difference between a mentor. A mentor will do things and guide you. A sponsor is somebody which will really take up your cause and be the wind beneath your wings, so to speak. Like we say in criminal law, so to speak, there's friends and there's friends, so to speak. There's some friends that'll go out and go downtown and bond you out of jail, right? And then there's those other friends that'll look over at you in the cell block and say, man, that was fun. Sponsor is that person that be that wind beneath your wings. I've seen some writings that dealt with like the Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, and so forth. And I was reading just about them and in relation to this. And one thing I know is that successful persons are always reflecting on their lives. They're always looking at themselves and how they can move. Most people think of things of, you look at your stocks, you look at your kids, you look at your spouse, you look at your friends, you maybe even look at your wallet, look at your clothing, look whatever, and you say, I'm doing pretty good. You really need to, when it comes to you, define your career, look at you. Who are you? Who are you? I mean, there have been some terrible people in history that thought they were doing well. There's been some terrible people. I'm gonna hold my words. So I am gonna hold my words. Right. So back to that earlier quote by Glassy. It says, history is not the past, but a map of the past, drawn from a particular point of view to be useful to the modern traveler. One caveat I want to make sure you understand from that quote, that when you're looking at history, the quote says, drawn from a particular point of view. You gotta watch too where you're getting your history, who's giving it to. Okay. Drawn from a particular view. God forbid the Germans that won World War II. History been written differently, right? God forbid, thank God it wasn't in the cards, bad people don't win. But you need to also you make sure your Yodas, your gurus, your Bill McLean, Judge Bill McLean's, your Judge Spiegel, persons of high integrity. Your mentors, people of highest level of integrity, in every way possible. The magazines, the books, where are you getting it from? You have to be open and flexible to look at other places and challenge yourself. You will prepare your career. I navigated my career in so many different ways to make sure, and you know you're doing it right when you can give true and just advice to other folks. That's when you know you're doing it right. So I'll leave you with that. It's been an honor, Maria, Palermo, and the Cincinnati Bar Association members. Thank you.
Thank you.